Oh yes, thank you for having me. It's actually quite an honor to serve as a keynote speaker. Just to give you a background, I participated in career, I guess the fair couple of times. I was just a speaker, and I think after a couple of years, it's actually a great honor to be a keynote speaker. So I will share my presentation right now, and we'll go from there. It's also good to see kind of some familiar faces actually. So, okay, so my presentation is a little bit long, but I'll skip some of the things that maybe might not be of interest for you guys. I do understand you guys are still in grad school and you guys want to kind of get some career advice and see what kind of opportunities are out there. So I will definitely talk about my career just to give you some, hopefully some inspiration as to, that you guys could do what I've done, because I was a graduate student at GSIS as well. I graduated, I think around 2015, if I remember correctly. So it's been about 6 years. So you kind of see what I've done a little bit before, but especially after what I did in GSIS, and these opportunities will also definitely be available to you guys because I'm just like you guys, I did PIC. So, okay, so this is the content. I'll just talk my experience, kind of portrait of my career and other stuff, and eventually, of course, career advice, because that's very important. I have these pictures here because maybe you guys have heard of Quebec or Canada, especially Quebec. Quebec, Canada kind of came on the map of Korea when they had this drama called Tokebi or Goblin. Maybe you guys know. There's the background, so I put that photo there. So basically, I'll just talk about my experience at GSIS very quickly. I graduated in 2015, if I remember correctly. One of my experiences at GSIS was very rewarding, actually. I did a lot of TA-ships. I talked to a lot of professors, kind of participated in a lot of these events and everything, and created a lot of network that really gave me the experience to get out there. It helped me build interpersonal skills, etc. So it was a very good experience. So one thing I do recommend is talk to your professors, talk to Dr. Lee, talk to the dean and everybody, and really seize the opportunity. But at the minimum, you get to, develop networking skills. That's really important too. So one of the things I also did there was, I think Dr. Chong Taeyong, yes, that was his name. Sorry, it's been a long time. I worked with him as well, and we created this called the Institute for Global Sustainability. I don't know if it's still there. The picture is here. So I did a lot of things. So I do recommend taking, the time to kind of talk to your professors and see what opportunities are out there, and definitely do some TA ships, whatnot, because that really helps you, understand I guess the dynamics of everything kind of. So that's that. So that's my experience. It was really good. So yes, so the portrait of my career, yes, I did have a very colorful career. What I really want to just emphasize here is having interdisciplinary skills or experience is very important for, kind of finding out not only what you're passionate about, but I mean, people think, oh, I need one expertise and this will get me through, my career, which isn't necessarily wrong. But if you have a diverse array of skills plus your expertise, that will help you get almost any job that you kind of feel passionate about. Because maybe at grad school, you're not exactly sure. Maybe you want to get into international relations. Maybe you want to get into, I don't know, like some conglomerate, or maybe like tech. You're not super sure yet. So knowing what you're going to do, you have to experience it. And from there, you get a diverse range of skills. So I'll talk about some of my career. It is quite daunting and diverse, but actually it's not that. It's very possible for everybody. So I won't talk about all of them because we don't have that much time. So some of the interesting stuff. Well, actually, just to go back, I actually started even before GSIS, my career as an English teacher, actually, which is very interesting. Some people do this. I taught at Pagoda Academy as just a teacher, and that kind of got me the skills to know how to talk to people and how to deliver messages, in a very concise way. And just to give you a background, I put in the blue things about the interpersonal, I guess, expertise that you can develop through many different types of work. So, but they all kind of interconnect together, which I will talk about later. But the key theme I wanted to emphasize is interdisciplinary talents and skills is key to anything. Even like, AI can't even do that. So, but anyways, so that's that. So I did some work on post-production copywriting. This interdisciplinary skill, it helped me with creativity and tech because I did some CG. I did some, for example, I work with, there's a company called Che Worldwide, or in Korean it's called Che. And I started working with them through my actually networking and connections. And I built up a lot of creativity through this. So I made posters for Shinhan. I work with KT making commercials. I work with Koei doing consumer electronics show in Las Vegas, for example. And not only that gave me the talent for creativity and tech, because you have to do computer work, that helped me kind of network with the people. Because, for example, when I worked with Koei and consumer electronics show, that gave me the network to be able to use them as my B2B partner later in my work. So whatever you do, keep in touch with people, keep the network, and kind of do your best, because you never know when you might run into these people, and kind of work with them. And if they remember you from the past of having a good image, having this interdisciplinary skill, they know when you go to another job, you could link with them again and keep working with them, which I actually am doing now. And I'll talk about that a bit later. But basically, this is one of the career I did actually during and after graduate school. And I got this job through my, I guess, high school network contact, because he works for Jail Worldwide. So the key thing here is networking. That's very important. Actually, during GSIS, one of my other job was I was a radio host at a radio station called TBS EFM. It still exists, I think 101.3. It's an English channel through the Seoul Metropolitan Government. And yeah, so you could actually listen to it now, but I don't work there anymore. The key here is interdisciplinary as well. I use my creativity with my copywriting. I got this job, through also my network. So I did do this for about 1 year. It was during GSIS. And like I said, doing presentation creative, this kind of really helped me with this, and also with content creation as well, because I had to write my own scripts, etc. So that's something I did. Yes. And then after actually graduating from GSIS, I started working for UNESCO. And one thing I wanted to highlight, you could see here on the bold and underline, how did I get this job? This one wasn't exactly the connection, but it was actually from the GSI CDC website. So I highly recommend going there, because it has a lot of the jobs that they don't have just random jobs there. The posting, from what I remember, is they have postings where it's very relevant to people from GSIS, meaning, from what I know, yes, there are CDC people who look for these jobs and post it there, but many of them, they come through the people who are looking for these type of people. So for example, UNESCO, the HR person probably contacted GSI CDC and asked them, hey, can you please put this posting up there? And then I saw that, I applied, and I got this job, and I did this for about a year. I was a researcher here and did, like mostly research stuff. The reason I got into this job is because obviously after I graduated from GSIS, my passion was I wanted to get into the international relations field or international organizations. I wanted to many of you probably have a similar passion in life. I wanted to travel the world and kind of make my mark and kind of help the world. So I thought, hey, what better way to do this and to get into an international organization like UNESCO and then do lots of international work, educate people and do those things. And one of my things that I did was about global citizenship education. So I would go to schools and help develop the curriculum. Like, for example, in Korea, instead of just purely for the Korean college aptitude test, I kind of helped develop curriculum where I would kind of put curriculum to kind of foster the leaders of tomorrow rather than just exams. But the reason I quit this job is my passion was international work, but this is more about about Korea. So I was like, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. So after a year, I got all the skills, research, international organization skills, how to write how to actually do document and developing programs, network with governments and taught at school. So this gave me a lot of the foundations of what I use today, because I do a lot of these research and government, all that stuff too. Yes, and the key here is I got this job from GSIS CDC website, so ODAR people, that kind of stuff. So check that out. It's actually really good. And I sometimes look at it these days, just fun stuff. So after that, for a year, I started working for the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Why? Because I wanted to do international relations work, but also I was like, hey, if I'm gonna do government work, might as well go into Korean government and see how it is. So the reason I also took this job is it was work with the WHO. Basically, it was work on the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. So basically, Korea and WHO has a treaty, this Framework Convention that states like Article 1, don't sell cigarettes to minors. Article 2, this and this and that. But my work was Korea did not introduce pictorial warning in cigarette packs, but then they already signed a treaty to say they will do this, but they didn't. So they had to hire somebody. They hired me. So I was a researcher to introduce pictorial warnings in cigarette packs. And I hope you guys don't smoke, but if you do, you probably notice in Korea now there's that picture there. And what's kind of ironic is I used to smoke. Yes, I quit 10 years ago, but I used to smoke. So that was kind of also another reason for me to take this job and also to do international work with WHO. Also, once again, to emphasize, how did I get this job? From GSIS CDC website. Yes, same thing. Why? Because these people wanted people with international background and who does international studies, because that's what this work was about. It was producing research actually in Korean, but still we're liaisoning with WHO. A delegation came, so I had to make the program, take them around and do all that stuff. And it was a good experience because I also made a lot of network with WHO people from the kind of the biotech sector. So this was really good. The reason I did this for a year, the reason I quit, this might sound kind of weird, but my job was to pass the law so that I could introduce pictorial warnings. But then it was very stressful because there was a lot of lobbying and interest groups that didn't want pictorial warnings on cigarette packs in Korea. So it was a lot of fighting. So after the law was passed, I think 2016, if I remember correctly, I kind of stopped because yes, there was some international work that was all good, but it was kind of stressful. So I stopped working. So after that, my job was, I worked at an international organization called World Smart Sustainable Cities Organization. And here I worked for 4 years. And how did I get this job? Same thing again. I got this from the GSIS CDC, Korea website, the posting there. And like I said, why is that good? Because these people look for people like you guys, with English background or could speak English because, that's mandatory, who knows about international relations, that kind of stuff. So this was actually the most valuable experience I've had for 4 years. I was a senior program officer there, and I did work on smart cities, so to say. So this is an organization actually created by the mayor of Seoul. Yes, you could see here, I work with him a lot. Unfortunately, he passed away for whatever reason. I'm not going to get in there, but he was the head of this organization. And what he wanted to do was kind of spread Seoul's know-how on smart cities, because I'm sure Korea and Seoul, they're very well known for smart cities, IT, tech, and all that, e-government, and all those cool, like digital mayor's office, all those cool things. So he wanted to kind of spread the knowledge, do some development work through, different funding channels like the World Bank. So I did a lot of that, which I'll get into detail. But basically, what I did here is implementation, knowledge, and diplomacy kind of stuff. And the skills I learned here, smart cities, tech, international relations, government, which relates to a lot of things I did before. So that's the reason I was able to get this job. But like I said, GSIS website, CDC, you should definitely check that out. So I did a lot of work of, like traveling the world and smart cities and all that stuff. So what did I do here? So as you see from the picture, the international relations part, it's very simple. It's kind of like diplomacy. So on the left, I went to Mexico and did some agreements to do some smart cities there. The mayor of LA came, so I met the delegation there to do collaboration on Korean companies that have smart city solutions. They sign, MOU agreements and partnership agreements to develop smart city solutions for LA. For example, their tax system, because Korea has a very very good e-government solution. On the top left, she's the mayor from Wellington in New Zealand. She came to learn benchmark Seoul smart cities. So I took her around, took her to, like, for example, Cheonggyecheon, you guys probably know, it's an urban regeneration project. Took her to City Hall and show her all those cool smart city projects. Help her meet companies, because sometimes maybe New Zealand does not have companies who could develop some of these solutions. So I did that and, helped export a lot of smart city solutions that Seoul developed. So in the middle of this, I went to Moscow. You could see the mayor there. There was a panel discussion on, smart cities, all that stuff. On the top right, it's actually we did some development work with a city called Kampala. It's a capital city of Uganda. So we did some revenue generating smart city solutions there. On the bottom right, because of my IR work, I was invited a lot to those National Day events. Maybe you heard of those. In current times, they don't exist that much anymore, but there's maybe 160 embassies in Seoul, and they have National Day events, like Canada's July 1st, that's their National Day event. And on the bottom right was the UAE. Why I mentioned this is, so as I did a lot of diplomacy, I was invited to these, and I went to a lot of these, and some of those networks were key to my work, but also my work that I am working at right now as a Canadian government official, which I'll get into detail soon. So I did some IR stuff there, and a lot of the stuff, my previous experience, but a lot of the stuff I learned at GSIS. Like, you would think, oh, at school, you learn stuff, do you actually use it at work? Or depending on the work, but I did a lot. So, I mean, it was very valuable. So, and knowledge sharing, as I mentioned, it's typical for an international organization to do a lot of knowledge sharing. And the previous work I've done, like, for example, radio, to be able to present, be able to kind of make people understand and help them kind of get interested in the subject, that skill that I had, that interdisciplinary skill, use it a lot here. So I don't know, top left was, I was interviewed at some Russian radio TV station, for example. At the middle, maybe you've heard of this place called Korea ASEAN Center. Maybe you've heard of this. It's another, I guess, intergovernmental organization. I did some work there, sharing knowledge about smart cities to the students. The top right, I went to America and did some knowledge sharing there. Bottom left was with the World Bank, et cetera, et cetera. Knowledge sharing is very important, but thanks to my work from before, like as a researcher, et cetera, that gave me the skills to be able to kind of deliver my message in a kind of hopefully fun way. And hopefully I'm using that right now, hopefully. So this gave me a lot of those skills. I talked about implementation. Basically, as an international organization, we don't just talk and share knowledge. That's important too, but we actually implemented a lot of the smart city solutions. I don't have an engineer background, but I helped do a lot of that, and I learned a lot of the tech skills from there. Like, for example, bottom left, we went to a city called Seberang Perai in Malaysia, and we helped install smart lighting system. So basically, it's like a lamppost. They have lights. Malaysia's not some bad country. They have the infrastructure. So what we did was we put like IoT and sensors, etc., that would measure the lumens of the actual light, and there would be a motion sensor. And if people are not there, then they would dim the lights. And if people go by, you would, brighten the lights and, kind of save energy and help the climate. That kind of work we did there. So we actually implemented smart solutions all around the world. And that's just one of the examples. And one of the key things for this is not only did we help the world, become smarter, so to say. I helped Seoul because, technically I don't go there and install it. I take the companies, usually the small and medium enterprises in Korea that, that develop this lighting solution. I would take them and they would install it. So that would help Korean companies and that would create jobs. And that was one of the key, I guess, priorities any mayor would have. So that's why he was very into smart cities, because who doesn't like those kind of stuff? So I went to Turkey, Kampala, Malaysia, just many places around the world, and did a lot of these projects, Mexico City as well. And it was very valuable because it kind of broadened my horizons. It helps me see that, my life is actually good, basically, so to say, and, helps me become more kind of compassionate, actually, because some places, the way of doing business was very new to me. Maybe it's a bit slow, etc. So you kind of wonder why, and you kind of investigate and understand, okay, these cultures have these kind of ways of doing it. So you just have to adapt to that. And that gave me the kind of the compassion to be able to work with basically everybody. So that was very valuable. It's declassified now. This is something I kind of wanted to mention because it's kind of cool. Maybe some of you guys are into North Korea. So the mayor, relations with North Korea is not so good now, but I'm sure with Trump and all that stuff. I think it was in 2018, the Moon delegation, or President Moon actually went to Pyongyang. You guys probably know about this. And obviously he wouldn't go alone. He took the CEO of SKT, he took Mayor Park, he took, like the head of Samsung, et cetera, so all those people. And he came back. And, obviously if you come back, you can't just be like, oh, I had fun there. You have to actually do work. So the mayor came back and told me, hey, we need to do work with North Korea. Obviously, he probably had political reasons, but still, when you go there and you come back, you have to do actual work. And he realized it's not easy. So he knew like I'm talented enough. So he gave me this task to tell me, do some work with North Korea. And I asked him, hey, I don't really have any connections. What should I do? And he told me, that's for you to figure out. So I told him, hey, then can you give me the business cards and contacts that you received from North Korea so I could contact them and, start relation. He's like, what business cards? That's not how North Korea works. I'm like, what am I going to do then? He's like, that's up to you. You're the, the officer, and he's just the politician. So I thought long and hard. And this is where that interdisciplinary came into place, because I thought long and hard and started to strategize to be able to do work with North Korea. What am I going to do? Obviously smart cities, because that's what my organization is, but how am I going to like create a network? So what I did was, every time I went to business trips, and I went a lot, obviously, from the photos I showed you, I think I went out of the country like maybe 20 times a year, which was kind of tough. But anyways, every time I visit a country, I tried to visit the North Korean embassy. And luckily, I'm actually a Canadian citizen. Yes, I was born in Korea. I left when I was 5, so I don't have a Korean passport. So not every country has a North Korean embassy, but like Singapore, Hong Kong, Mexico, they do. And you could actually somewhat reasonably find it online. Sometimes, or I would contact the Minister of Foreign Affairs there. So I would knock on their door and tell them I'm a Canadian, I work for this international organization. Can I come by? And usually they say yes, because they need results too. So I started building relationships, and they started to have the portfolio on me. And eventually, the embassy in Singapore, they kind of opened up and asked, hey, let's then do some projects together. And I mentioned we have, investors such as SKT who want to do a feasibility study on smart lighting system in a place called Unjonggu district. Basically, it's the kind of the science district in Pyongyang that the Kim Jong-un designated. So we want to do a project there kind of as an development assistance project. And yes, there's UN sanctions. So this is where my GSIS knowledge came into place. Yes, there are UN sanctions, which I'm sure you know, but there's sanction exemption clauses. But to know this, you have to know the UN system. And if I remember correctly, I took a class with Professor Ajin Choi, the UN and organizational law, something like that. And she and I talked about this, and at least I knew where to look. So I looked at it, I did the exemption clauses, and it was okay, especially because it's inter-Korean. So it was good. And I had a backup plan. If that didn't work, we were just going to do some consulting services on solar panels. Because in Pyongyang, surprisingly, it's somewhat developed. They have solar panels on roofs, but they kind of don't have a strategy. So we had that software or consulting services with a startup in Korea where they would map out, or we call it solar mapping. So we would use drones or satellite technology to consult them on where to install the solar panel so that it gets maximum efficiency. Should you install it in a 40-degree angle or 30 degrees angle, this kind of stuff. And also we could install it on windows. So we want to consult on these things, just in case the sanction exemptions did not go through. So, but anyways, so yes, you can see these business cards, all that. So what happened? What's interesting here is, so to get this project going, I have to make sure the Seoul people, because I'm getting money from Seoul to do this, it was Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, and North Koreans to sit together. But if you think about it, I can't just take Seoul Korean officials and Korean citizens to North Korea. That doesn't make sense. And I can't bring North Koreans to Seoul. That's still almost impossible, even during those times. So what did I do? I met at a third location, which was in Singapore. But what's more interesting is this is the interdisciplinary knowledge. The problem here is even then, direct Korean government and North Korean government meeting was not allowed. So what I did was I created here something called an Urban Innovation Forum. It was an international conference, but obviously the real reason was to bring North Koreans and South Koreans or Seoul officials and Ministry of Unification, all those people to Singapore and meet. But then that cannot be official. So I did this program with Seoul's money. I think it was a $400,000 conference. Yes, it was an actual conference. I invited people from Vietnam, from Belgium. They talked about how to, their cool smart city project, all that stuff. So we did all that. I even brought SKT people, they presented, but obviously on the side, unofficially, they sat together and talked about how to collaborate because you need to bring them together so they could sign stuff and all that. This happened in end of 2019. So obviously, I'm sure you know what happened. Talks are going. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to get invited from the north, and they're going to give us an invitation letter so that we get the visa to go. But Corona, so that's too bad. But obviously, we're still in touch, and hopefully we might work together. But I changed jobs, but I'm still very much interested in North Korea because it's a very meaningful work. Why? Is because yes, some think North is bad, and don't get me wrong, I understand those opinions. But my point for this is, eventually North will open up to a certain degree. I'm not talking about like North will open up like where they will be unified with South Korea. No, I mean like open up like their businesses to a certain degree. So if I could take Korean delegation now and do some project, when they do open up, it'll be South Korea that will benefit. And I think that's the appropriate thing because Korea is still one Korea. So yes, that was a cool project. And after doing all those great things for Seoul, luckily I was awarded this award. You could see the mayor in the middle. I got something called a Seoul Honorary Citizen Award from the mayor himself. You could see here, and I was nominated by the Canadian ambassador actually, and you could see here, like it was just very honorable. So we don't have that much time, so if you have questions, you could, but it was just very good to be recognized. That was really cool. So this is important, pathway towards my current job. So this job was not from the GSIS CDC website. This job was actually, it was a long pathway. We don't have that much time, but I'll still talk about it because this is where it's very important to know. You never know when you're going to get the opportunity. So how I got this job is, well, as I was working for the World Smart Student Cities organization, I was doing a lot of diplomacy and IR. And as I mentioned, I went to a lot of these National Day events. And I realized I wanted to make a good embassy case with to show others that as an international organization, you could work with embassies in Korea and get a lot of the job done. So I wanted to make one example, and that was obviously Canada, because I'm a Canadian citizen. So every time I went to these National Day events, I targeted the Canadian ambassador. But obviously just to introduce myself. Why did I do this? Because if you think about it, at National Day events, it's not some open invitation to the public. It's people who are, I guess, somewhat VIP, but more like people who do these kind of work. So many of the high level people are there, but they're very willing to talk to the people who are there, because it's not just random, like ajashis, it's actually like people related to the work. So I, for example, went to the Costa Rica National Day. So I just introduced myself very short in the beginning because, he's a busy man. So I just said, hello, blah, blah, blah. My name's Andrew, and maybe we could work together. 2 minutes, bye. A month later, there was let's say, American Independence Day. They have an event, he's there. I would say hello again. He might not remember me, but third time, fourth time, fifth time, eventually he remembered me, obviously. I remember it was the Italian National Day event. So I mentioned, hey, I would love to do some smart cities work with Canada because they have good tech. Maybe we could do some collaboration. He was like, oh, hey, I remember you, Andrew. Next month we have the trade minister, Jim Carr, coming. Hey, why don't you come by? It's in the morning and talk to the people, see what you could do. And that picture is here in the middle. He's not the minister now, but he's the Minister of Trade, and he came to Korea, I think 2-3 years ago. So this is how I created that network. So I went to this event and I connected with all the people there, like the other trade commissioners that do my work. So from there, I started working from, trade missions come to Korea. So I got invited. I started working with a lot of the Canadian people here. You could see the trade mission for automated vehicles. This is the Ontario IoT mission. And this one is the deputy minister came, so I took her to City Hall and did that kind of stuff. And obviously, there was the honorary citizen. So all that combined is how I got this job, which means, yes, there was an official opening for this job, but as I was working like this, the Quebec person in charge actually asked me, hey, the job opening is actually done. It's already passed, but why don't you give me a resume? I've seen that you've done a lot of work and we'll see what we could do. And I was like, hey, you know what? Here you go. That's fine. I already have a job now, but why not? And then a month later, she called me. We had a chat in Starbucks and it was done. Technically, there's an exam, and because it's Quebec, they have to test my French. I speak some French, but wasn't that good. But just like that, I got this job. So what I'm saying is take the opportunity, get out there. If you go to these events, most people just eat, and that's fine. But I mean, have a strategy, target, and you never know. Because at the worst, they might not remember you, but so what? At the most, you might get a job and work like what I do. So what I'm saying is take the opportunity, have a strategy, have a goal, and something will come of it. So this is kind of how I got this job. Same thing, interdisciplinary. I had all these great work from before, so that helped a lot. So, and obviously the Canadian Embassy and the government, what's it called, promoted me, you could see from this Twitter. So that kind of created the brand too. So that's that. I'll go quickly because we don't have that much time. Present day, so I work for the Canadian government. I represent Quebec. Basically, how my job was created is, I'm sure 2015, there was an FTA Canada-Korea, and in 2017, there was a science and technology and innovation agreement. You could see here, there to do science and research with Canada and Korea. Therefore, my job was created because that's what I do. I facilitate research between the two countries, a little bit like a matchmaker, so to say. And I do a lot of the science agreements. So some of the work I will tell you, I'll skip the Quebec stuff because we don't have that much time. Just so you know, Canada and Korea, there's around maybe $10 billion of trade each year, which is kind of a lot. Just for Quebec, there's 2.7 billion, just to let you know. I'm not going to talk about this so much. These are some government priorities. There's a lot of cool AI stuff going on in Quebec. Google, Samsung, we're all located in Montreal, but I'll skip that. AI, that's all good. So what do I do here? Obviously, knowledge sharing, as I did in World Smart Sustainable Cities Organization. So that skill I brought here. So the top left is I talked about this is my work with the National Assembly. In the middle, I still work with Seoul because I have my previous network there. So like I said, keep your network, have a good image because you never know when things will come back. And I talk a lot on the news. You probably know Arirang News. I talk about like smart cities, Green New Deals, and Samsung because of my interdisciplinary knowledge developed as a researcher. And I do a lot of the speakerships at smart city events and all that stuff. We don't have that much time. No, maybe I'll show this a little bit. It's just one of the
decisions that turned Samsung Group into the empire that it is now here in Korea.
There was actually a, but I'll skip this. We don't have that much time. So, yes, so that's that. Yes, so I also do bilateral relations, diplomacy, obviously. One of the honors I've had is I was able to work with the president. You could see here and here. I don't work with him directly. I get invited to some of these events or do some presentations for those people. So here's President Moon, here's the National Assembly Speaker, the previous one. So I get invited to these and create network there as well. Obviously, I don't get to talk to the president himself because he's a busy man, but there's the employees, so that helps a lot. We do a lot of, bilateral relations for promoting Canada. Here is Seoul. I work with Seongbukgu. It's a district in Korea and the president, etc. So I still use a lot of my talents from before or expertise that I developed from before and create a lot of bilateral relations to do research, basically. Yes, so like I said, I do R&D. So what I do is I get a Korean, maybe it could be University Institute or like National Research Foundation of Korea and maybe National Research Council of Canada. They would sign an agreement, maybe put in $1 million each and do research on advanced materials, maybe developing new permeable membrane for more efficient battery use, for example. So what I do is I'm kind of a matchmaker to put these people together be able to do actual research. So I do a lot of things. I visit many places. On the right, I just recently visited the Center for Quantum Nanoscience. It's in EY University. They're doing scanning tunnel microscopes. So Quebec also has a quantum kind of field that we're kind of pushing for priority. So I'm going to link them up maybe with the McGill Quantum Nanoscience Institute, and hopefully they'll put in money and do some research together to observe electrons, for example. So the key here is my tech knowledge from before helped a lot. I'm not an engineer, but I've always had a lot of interest. So this helps me a lot to develop these kind of skills, because to be able to put two people together, first you need to meet them each and show that you are dedicated, passionate, and very professional. And to show that you're trustworthy, you have to know what you're doing. And to show that you know what you're doing, you need knowledge. Tell them about, it could be you need to know how to talk about quantum mechanics, for example, to a certain degree. So having a vast array of knowledge is very important. So that's that. So I do these R&D programs. I won't get into too much detail. There's another one I'm doing on advanced materials. I do scholarships, actually. So if you guys are interested in going to Canada or Quebec for university, I mean, after GSIS, of course, don't quit school now after. So even for PhD, we have scholarships and joint research projects that we could do. I do a lot of startup stuff too. So my job is to bring startups from Canada or Quebec or take startups to Montreal or Quebec and do some, enjoy each other's ecosystem and perhaps do some R&D or commercialize a product and then create jobs is one of the things I do. Yes, this is another partnership. We're doing some 5G stuff, so it's really cool. I don't know if you guys know, this guy's very famous, Dr. Yoshua Benjo. He's like the father of machine learning AI. He's from the University of Montreal, just so you know. So I brought a institute from Korea called ETRI and Mila together, and they signed some partnership. They're doing some research on cyber physical brain. I'm not going to talk about that. So career advice is very important. Number one, field of study matters. Obviously, they will look at your what your major is, but experience and cover, because that's my example. I did PIC, but now I do tech and science. Yes, I had some interest. Luckily, my job, such as the World Smart Sustainable Cities Organization, gave me the tech skills to show my future employers I am well-versed in tech, and I have enough contents and all that stuff. So that's very important. I mean, field of study is important, but get lots of expertise everywhere, so that's very important. Yes, what else? Yes, resumes are very important too, obviously. One advice here is a lot of the time these days, people use AI to filter. So I'm not saying copy and paste, but those requirements or, like what this position entails, don't copy and paste, but kind of have that in your resume, because that's how AI will filter your thing. So if you have some like, I don't know, maybe it's Google government relations, and it says like you have to develop relations with government. So have something like that, like you have your experience says, oh, you have worked with government to develop joint research programs. Then government and relations words are in there. AI will see this and put your resume not in the second tier, but the first tier, so that humans could see it. Very important. I could help you with that. Like I said, participate in numerous events for Business Crisis Network. That's how I got this job. I mean, yes, eat and enjoy a bit, but have some time to have a strategy to target people. That's very important. But don't like heckle them. Don't pester them. Like the Canadian ambassador, meet them once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, don't talk to them too much because they're busy too. Internships to see what you like, because you don't know what field you'll get into. So that's kind of what I did. Wasn't necessarily internships, but I did like 1 year here, 1 year there, and I'll put it together. And now I'm here. So alumni is very important. We'll have a couple of job openings here, so you can contact me too. Do your research. Like I said, when I talked to the Canadian ambassador, I wasn't just like, let's do smart city. I talked about the smart city stuff in Canada, like, oh, I know you guys did the smart cities challenge, Montreal won this and that, we collaborate on that. So then the ambassador would think, wow, this guy knows his stuff, he is maybe trustworthy. The key is same thing here. Being knowledgeable is key to professionalism. They don't know who you are, but if you seem like you know what you're talking about, they will trust you more than if you don't know what you're talking about. So, and of course, use available resources. In the beginning, when I didn't have such a vast amount of experience, GSIS Career Center was perfect. Just to let you know, there's other like global jobs, Recruit, but why not start at GSIS, because these jobs are targeting you guys specifically. Reference letters, reach out to alumni. I've written many. I mean, the least I could just help you with that. I'm not gonna lie, but we could fudge things to a certain degree. I mean, that's life. So yes, like I said, seize opportunities, you never know. So always, be on your best behavior and just, because I contact a lot of people. I contacted like 4 years ago. Hey, I'm here. I have this project. Do you want to do it together? Like, oh, hey, I remember you. We did this. We had a great thing. So that's very important. So, and of course, LinkedIn. I'm sure most of you have. You probably, I don't know if you've seen mine, but you could kind of, yeah. So mine's there. LinkedIn is very important because preliminarily, many people look at that just to see if you're kind of legit or not. That does get you through some doors, so that helps a lot. So definitely have a LinkedIn profile, have the minimum at least, like your expertise and all that. You don't have to do like the recommendation, all that, but still have, it's kind of the Facebook for work. So that's very important too. So there's my LinkedIn, there's my email if you want to get in touch with me. I'm very much willing to help. I mean, I've already done 3 career fair presentations, so you could see I like helping people, because like I said, if you help people, you never know where you might work with them again. Maybe I could help you guys, not just for jobs here, but somewhere else in my network, and then work with you guys. That could be actually quite good. And I've actually done that already before. So that's very important. One example, I actually currently work with a student that I taught at Pagoda 10 years ago. We got in touch again, because I think he contacted me for my birthday. Katok has that feature. And we're like, hey, what are you doing? We had lunch and we had this opportunity. We worked together. Because he works in smart warehouses, so I'm doing a lot of B2Bs, so you just never know. And I taught well, I think, so he had a good impression. So yeah, thank you. And yes, thanks for listening. I don't know if we have time for questions, but hopefully.
Thank you, Mr. Lim, for your wonderful speech.